come to Isaiah 23. We have a prophecy against the nation of Tyre, the nation of Tyre. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you. It won't display the way I want, but that doesn't matter. Tyre is a huge seafaring city. It's on the coast, north of Israel. It's still there today. But the point that he's going to get at with Tyre is that Tyre personifies greed and materialism and doing anything just to earn a buck, where the God you basically worship is money. And as an example of this, I put on the screen, what is an example today, a common example today of out of control people who only worship themselves and who only seem to care about earning money and about profit. And the best example I can come up with recently was the financial crisis from 2008, where almost the entire financial system was in danger of collapsing because of all these bad loans that were made to people who couldn't afford them, and tons of other causes that don't matter right now. But it's all driven by greed and a desire for profit. And if you were a working person in 2008-ish, 2009, 2010, a lot of things changed, and a lot of things were difficult unless you had a government job. We bought our first house in 2008, just before the financial crisis, and it was an awful time. But the point that I wanted to make was the bank bailout. Does everyone remember the bank bailouts in the financial crisis? How you had these huge banks who'd made all of these awful loans, and then because the entire financial system in America, and everything affects everything else like a ripple in a pond. I mean, if American banks fail, it'll impact the world system, and so there was this push to bail out the banks so they wouldn't go bankrupt as all these loans that they made collapsed. And there's a lot of controversy about it, giving hundreds of billions of dollars to banks so that they wouldn't collapse when they were one of the prime architects of the entire crisis. So when I think about Tyre, he's going to criticize them for this insane commercialism. All they care about is making money. All they care about is earning wealth. And this is the best example I can think of from our country in recent memory. There was all this controversy about whether the bank should even be bailed out. Bush did bailouts. When Obama took over, he did bailouts too. And there was all sorts of criticism like this. Here's a cartoon of Wall Street bankers waving goodbye and the Fed chairman saying, "Just call if you need another taxpayer bailout." It sort of reflected the frustration that ordinary people felt with the people who'd caused this entire crisis. And here's another one that I thought was funny. The government, fat, lazy, telling an ordinary person, "You need to get lean, soldier." It's like, you need to, ordinary people have to deal with the problems that the recession caused: loss of jobs, reduction in pay, houses gone, all sorts of economic devastation when the banks are getting bailed out, and they're the ones who caused the crisis. And if you remember, there was a huge controversy because the banks gave out huge bonuses to people even after they received bailouts. Does anyone remember that? There was all this controversy. Banks received billions of dollars, and then as they received billions of dollars in aid, they gave out billions of dollars in performance bonuses to employees.
That's garbage.
Well, it is garbage. And so this chart on there, which you might not be able to read if it's too far away, but it gives an example. Goldman Sachs received $10 billion in bailout money. This is the TARP column. And it gave out over $1 billion in bonuses. 953 employees got $1 million bonuses, even as they received 10 billion in bailout funds. It's like, if you're giving you money, why are you using it and paying people bonuses when your institution helped cause the crisis? And
that's a classic textbook, create the problem and have a solution.
Citigroup, they received $45 billion and they gave out 738 employees got bonuses of 1 million or more. And this chart from the New York Times just lays out the scale of this stupidity. So it doesn't seem fair, but this like epitomizes corporate greed, not caring about anything but profit. I'll talk about your ultimate loyalty is profit. So now we get to Tyre. Tyre is a city north of Israel. It's on the coast, so you can look on the screen. Israel is down here. Tyre is up where the red dot is right there. So that's where Tyre is. Tyre in this time was an island just off the coast. This is Tyre today. You see this looks like this little hook just sitting off the coast. And here's a closer version of it today. Here's Tyre. It used to be just this island that you see on the screen. When Alexander the Great conquered it in the early 300s BC, he conquered it by building a causeway from the mainland to the island. The causeway's been built up over the years. So what you see here is like this little tongue of land that seems to just naturally connect to this island out here. It didn't used to be here. This is the causeway that Alexander the Great built to bring siege material to destroy the island. And over time, the causeway's just been built on and enlarged, and now it looks totally normal. But it used to be an island just off the coast, like right there. It didn't used to be connected to the mainland at all, but it is now. So Tyre is still there. And if you look close enough, this is from this morning. Google Maps shows that Starbucks is open on the island of Tyre this morning. So there's all kinds. There's even El Boutique, and there is Chop's Diner is also there. So if you want coffee or want something to eat, they can help you. So that's Tyre. And this is a huge seafaring community. Like they do trade, they're merchants. That's what they do. They have ships and they go all over the place trading, buying and selling. So it's like this huge commercial port and hub. It's the huge commercial port and hub of the Western Mediterranean. So to us, when God gives this oracle of judgment against Tyre, we don't care. What's Tyre to us?
Isn't it Tyre?
It could be. I just say Tyre because that's what I'm used to.
Saying that.
I could be wrong. Let me see. I'll look this up. No, I can't look it up right now. Anyway, I just say Tyre because I want to, but you can substitute whatever pronunciation you want. It's like some people call the fake Canaanite god Baal. It's really Baal. But when I grew up when I was in church after I became a Christian, the preachers always just called it Baal.
Yeah, that's what I always heard it as.
It's Baal. But Baal sounds better.
Baal sounds more.
Yeah. The prophets of Baal. You sound like some highfalutin person. The prophet of Baal. But anyway, I call it Tyre. You can do whatever you want. So you don't care about Tyre, but it's a huge. Everyone knows what Tyre is. Everyone knows what Tyre stands for. It's like the Wall Street bankers. Everyone who was alive during the Great Recession knows about the Wall Street bankers, knows about the bailouts, knows about the bonuses that were given out, or at least remembers about them when someone mentions them, and has this. A lot of people have this attitude of cynicism, like the Wall Street bankers who caused the crisis and then gave out millions of dollars in bonuses to employees who caused it. So that's how well known Tyre is. So if you're wondering why we care about Tyre and why is a chapter devoted to it, that's why. This is what he says. A prophecy against Tyre. Wail, you ships of Tarshish, for Tyre is destroyed and left without house or harbor. Tarshish. Where is Tarshish?
Tarshish.
Where is this place?
I can't remember.
Can't remember.
I almost thought it was in Spain.
Yeah, no one knows where it is. That's where Jonah was going to flee to, right? Jonah wanted to get as far away as possible. Where is as far away as possible? Tarshish. Wasn't it in the Disney movie, The Aristocats, the evil butler was going to ship the cats off to Timbuktu?
I think so. Yeah, it's like.
Does everyone watch The Aristocats?
It's like as far away as possible. In Spain, it's like on the other side of the Mediterranean.
So as far away as possible. In The Aristocats, the old lady was going to will everything to the cats, and the butler felt so offended. So he hatched this evil plot to get rid of the cats and ship them to Timbuktu, which just meant way far away. So no one knows where Tarshish is. Some people think it's in Africa, like around the Horn of Africa, way down south. Some people think it's in Spain. So no one knows where it is, but everyone does know it's really far away. So that's how far these people did commerce with. This is how far away their ships sailed. These are in Phoenicia, ships go all over the place, a huge naval power. So he's giving a prophecy about what's going to happen in the future, that one day all of that's going to be gone. Wail, you ships of Tarshish, for Tyre is destroyed. Left without house or harbor, from the land of Cyprus, word has come to them. Be silent, you people of the island, and you merchants of Sidon. Sidon is a city that's on the mainland that was always closely associated with Tyre, or Tyre, whatever you want to say. Whom the seafarers have enriched. On the great waters came the grain of the Shihor. The harvest of the Nile was the revenue of Tyre, and she became the marketplace of the nations. So what's with the harvest of the Nile thing? What's that mean? The harvest of the Nile was the revenue of Tyre, and she became the marketplace of the nations.
Well, Egypt got a lot of stuff. They got a lot of revenue from like the richness of the soil on the banks of the Nile and stuff. So they trade with Tyre.
Yeah. It's like if anything's going to go anywhere, you usually it's like you had to take it to Tyre so you can get a ship so it can be sent to wherever it is you wanted to do trade at. It's like everything has to go. It's like a choke point. If you have goods to sell, everything goes through there. It's like London or New York. The financial system, everything flows through New York and everything flows through London. It doesn't mean that there aren't other places on the earth where there's financial stuff going on, but those are the two. Those are the two big hubs, and everything goes through there. It can't be avoided. Not for us, I bank at Navy Federal Credit Union, which doesn't care about New York. But I mean, that's where all the big things happen, go through New York, go through London. And that's what Tyre is like. You need to get your stuff somewhere, it's going to go through Tyre, or for a ship chartered from there or something. Everything goes through there. But one day it's all going to be gone. And then what's everyone going to do? She's the marketplace of the nations. So we're in verse 4. Be ashamed, Sidon, and you fortress of the sea, for the sea has spoken. Tyre, a lot of nations tried to conquer Tyre, but it's out there just off the coast all by itself, and you can't really get to it. The only way you can get to it is to reduce it by some sort of naval bombardment and an amphibious landing, because there's no way to get people to it. And they had such a strong navy that they just resisted everything for all time. They were never actually conquered until Alexander the Great conquered them, like in the 330s. The Assyrians tried, and they didn't conquer them, but they got them to agree to terms, but they couldn't conquer them. The Babylonians tried, and the same thing resulted. I mean, everyone tried, but they never actually managed to do it until Alexander the Great. So that's why it calls them this fortress of the sea. For the sea, so be ashamed, fortress of the sea, for the sea has spoken. What's this mean in the verses 4 and 5? This is what the sea is being pictured as saying to these folks. I've neither been in labor nor given birth. I've neither reared sons nor brought up daughters. When word comes to Egypt, there'll be an anguish at the report from Tyre. That part that hopefully yours has quotations, the part that's in quotes, what's that mean? The sea says this: I've neither been in labor nor given birth. I've neither reared sons nor brought up daughters. Why would the sea say that about this nation, Tyre and Sidon, who's allied with them? What's the sea saying to this seafaring nation that has ships going all over the place? This is poetry, so it's not literal. I mean, it's speaking in poetic form. So if the sea is saying to this nation that's renowned for having boats that go all over the place on the sea to deliver stuff, If the sea says to Tyre, I've neither been in labor nor given birth, I've neither reared sons nor brought up daughters, what is the sea saying about this country?
Like they don't own the sea.
Okay, or that the sea is like it's like the ocean is like a mom who says, I don't even know who you are. Like the ocean is saying to this seafaring nation, I don't even know who you are. You don't belong to me. I didn't give birth to you. I haven't raised up sons or daughters. I don't even know who you are. So it's as though the engine that has made this country what it is saying to the nation, you're nothing to me. I don't even recognize you. I don't know who you are. Everything that they counted on for who they were and what their identity is will be ripped apart, and the sea itself won't even acknowledge that it knows you. It's like being disowned by a parent, who says, you're dead to me. I don't even know you. I don't want to know you. You're not my son. You're not my daughter. You're nothing to me. And this is a nation that had made everything it is on the basis of sea trading. So he's saying it's going to be over one day, and the sea is not going to help you. So we're in verse 6. Cross over to Tarshish. Wail, you people of the island, because it used to be an island. Is this your city of revelry, the old city whose feet have taken her to settle in far-off lands? Who planned this against Tyre, the bestower of crowns, whose merchants are princes, whose traders are renowned in the earth? And the Lord Almighty planned it to bring down her pride and all her splendor, and to humble all who were renowned on the earth. So it's like he's asking the people, he's like, step back and take a look at what's about to happen to you. Who's the one who did this to you? Who's the one who's going to do this to you? And he's telling them, the Lord Almighty is the one who's going to do this to you. And everything you counted on, your merchants were princes, your traders are renowned in all the earth, but one day you're going to be made to be absolutely nothing. So what is God, what do you think God is trying to say in Isaiah 23? Why are we reading this morning? Who cares? I mean, who cares? Other than a nifty picture about how it used to be an island, but it's not. What do you care? What's God's message? Why is God upset at this city after what I've told you about it? And what's it have to do with us?
All right.
Anyone have any ideas? Like, why would God be upset at this city?
Because they have a ton of greed and they only care about themselves and their money.
That's it. This is, if God is going to look beyond Israel, so look beyond Israel. God has plans for the world. Israel's the engine that's going to bring those plans to the world. But he has plans for the whole world. And if he's going to be talking about giving a vision of the world to come, a better world, he's going to have to give information on what he's going to do to the big guys on the block in Isaiah's day, and how what they epitomize as so wrong with this world will be flipped and things will be made right. So this nation who just personifies greed, materialism, instead of caring about God, trying to find out who God is and what he expects of me, how to have eternal life, how we're supposed to live. It's a nation that just personifies money. Money is king. Money is all that matters. Stuff is all that matters. And this is the nation renowned all over the whole world in the Mediterranean for this thing. Just like Wall Street bankers brings this sort of sneer to a lot of people's faces. It's the exact same thing. So what God is saying is, one day, this nation that just sums up all that's wrong with greed and materialism, it's all going to be wiped away. And everything it had trusted in, the money, the possessions, the status, the things, all of that's going to be gone. And the only thing that's going to be left is that someone infinitely more powerful than your trinkets and your money has come and crushed it and smashed it to powder. Who is that someone, and what does that mean for us? What he's saying is the same thing that Jesus said in Luke chapter 12. The sum of your life doesn't consist of what you have, your trinkets, your toys, your car, your money, your stuff. Yeah, it's stupid, but we know that, but yet we leave church and just continue on often as though this is just academic and it's not real. So it's as though God is saying, if I want to teleport to 2022, to everyone whose life consists in the abundance of her possessions, if that's you, even if you wouldn't tell anyone else, but you really live for the things you have, one day all of that's going to be destroyed. And picture if Wall Street imploded, it was just a smoking, cratered ruin, and all the banks were gone. All the people who personify greed and worship of stuff, all those institutions were vaporized. That's what God is trying to get across in Isaiah's day, which we can then take and apply to Wall Street or to other things today. Things are not the sum of your life. And if they are, then you have a really sad life. And God isn't saying that to be cruel and snarky. He's just saying that's a sad existence. It doesn't have to be that way. That's what he's saying in this chapter. Tyre sums up that entire problem, all wrapped up in that one city-state. And when he smashes her to bits, that's what he wants us to get. So he says in verses 10 to 12, till your land as they do along the Nile, daughter Tarshish, for you no longer have a harbor. Saying there's no, wherever Tarshish is, let's just say it's in Spain. You might as well start farming because there ain't no more ships going to be coming from Tyre. There's no need for a harbor anymore because all the ships that used to come and bring you all your stuff, it's time to grow your own stuff instead of importing everything through Tyre because they're going to be gone. So you all might as well make other plans. The Lord has stretched out his hand over the sea and made its kingdoms tremble. He's given an order concerning Phoenicia that her fortresses be destroyed. He said, no more of your reveling, virgin daughter Sidon, now crushed. And he conflates Tyre and Sidon together because they're so locked together, like a team. So he says, up, cross over to Cyprus. Even there you'll find no rest. Look at the land of the Babylonians, this people that is now of no account. The Assyrians have made it a place for desert creatures. They raised up their siege towers. They stripped its fortresses bare and turned it into a ruin. In this day, in the day that was coming, the Assyrians used to dominate the Babylonians. And he's referring to in the near future when the Assyrians are going to wage war against the Babylonians way in the east and raze cities to the ground in a really violent and nasty way. He's asking them before it happens, look at this scorched earth policy the Assyrians are going to have. And the Assyrians are the ones who are going to come and try and attack the city for many, many years and lay siege to it. So these people aren't going to leave much left. They're not going to leave much in their wake when they try and go through. So he's picturing this like urban wasteland of war and devastation that's going to destroy everything, which is what basically happens when these Syrians try to destroy Tyre. They don't succeed, but they subdue it so much that Tyre basically pays them off to be left alone. Has anyone read stories about the war in Ukraine, about in the city of Mariupol, of the Ukrainian soldiers and civilians trapped in that steel mill for nearly 3 months?
Yeah.
Anyone following stories about that? So there's actually a story in the New York Times this morning, a long story about what it was like for that 80-day siege of this steel factory. This is a huge, huge steel factory, massive, like a sprawling, huge complex. It's not like, a building. It's like it's huge.
No.
A compound, yeah, a huge compound. And they had all these Cold War era bunkers built into the compound. it was destroyed. The whole place was destroyed in World War II, but it was rebuilt. The Soviets and the citizens rebuilt it, and then when Ukraine became a separate country after the Berlin Wall fell and the Soviet Union disintegrated, now it belongs to Ukraine. But they had these bunkers, shelters built way underneath for people to take shelter in. And they decided to use them when the Russians invaded. The plant employees, the plant board of directors told its employees, you and your families can seek shelter here. It's stocked with provisions and everything. But they didn't realize that the Ukrainian soldiers would probably try and seek shelter there too. And so as the Russians closed in this sprawling, modern, huge compound, the steel factory, as the noose tightened more and more, all the soldiers, the Ukrainian soldiers, ended up falling back on the steel mill and hiding in its warrens and dens and cellars and buildings and compounds and everything. And the Russians couldn't take the place. They kept inching further and further forward and taking this building and that building, but they couldn't actually take the factory. But in the end, they arranged a ceasefire and negotiated a surrender. But the entire thing was like this cratered ruin. Like buildings for acres and acres, twisted, destroyed, bombed out, done, that had bombing raids on it for weeks on end. So it had become this ruin, fit for nothing. And this is the imagery that God's getting across about what's going to happen to Tyre one day at the hands of the Assyrians and others who come.
The Russians have like a scorched earth policy too. They just destroy everything.
Yeah. The Russians have been, in World War II, they did that a lot. They just used their artillery and flattened everything in sight. It's like no finesse. It's like
concentrate all fire on target and obliterate.
Yeah, it's like attacking someone with a hammer. It's really brutal, and they just bludgeon you to death. It's not very surgical.
No.
It's just like
Violence of action,
just bludgeon you to death. And they're still doing that today.
Work for them.
So verse 14, basically you're done, right? It's all done. Wail, you ships of Tarshish, your fortress is destroyed. So far, so fine. This city that epitomizes greed will be wiped off the earth. What does that mean for us today? If you are trusting in something other than your relationship with God to give you meaning in life, then that's going to be wiped out, and you're trusting in nothing. And it's so easy to think that that's not us, but all through human history, people have thought that it's not me. So this is a real thing for us to think about. Do we really trust God for our salvation, Jesus, or is he just a trinket on our keychain, but we're really, something else really has our heart and our passion, which is something only you can answer. But he does say, if that is you, you're counting on nothing. So the city will be destroyed. Now, this is the interesting part, which is why I read Isaiah chapter 2. His future for Tyre is not just you're all going to die, like we've seen with Moab, like with Egypt, like with Assyria. He does have plans that are actually good, that are actually involve restoration. Not just everyone dies, but Israel. So tell me what verses 15 to 16 mean, and then we'll get to the main point in a second. At that time, Tyre will be forgotten for 70 years. So the Assyrians dominated for about 70 years, dominated Tyre, received payments so they can be left alone and everything else. The span of a king's life. But at the end of these 70 years, it will happen to Tyre as in the song of the prostitute. And he quotes a song that was popular during that day. Like if I quoted a song that a lot of people listen to the radio would know. So Isaiah is quoting from the radio, okay, or quoting from whatever's trending on the Spotify playlist or whatever, quoting a pop song. And this is the song. Take up a harp, walk through the city, you forgotten prostitute. Play the harp well, sing many a song so that you'll be remembered. What is this song picturing? Don't worry about what it means for Tyre. What's the song lyric mean? What's happening in the song? Who's the subject of the song?
Tyre.
wrong with the harlot?
So there's a prostitute, right? There's a harlot, there's a prostitute, there's a woman who's a prostitute. And is she well known or is she forgotten?
I believe she's forgotten.
She's forgotten. So picture a prostitute who used to be well known but is now forgotten. Forget about the fact that that's kind of weird and just that's what the lyric says.
Yeah.
He says, take up a harp and walk through the city, you forgotten prostitute. Play the harp well, sing many a song so that you'll be remembered. So what's the prostitute trying to do?
Be remembered.
Be remembered. She's trying to make a comeback, right? The comeback kid. So she's walking around singing, trying to get, hey, remember me? Remember me? Remember me? And trying to get people to say, oh, you're back. Excellent. You know, and just run off with her. So she's trying to get business back. Like grand reopening, right? The banner's there. Grand reopening. How is this what Tyre is going to be like in 70 years? What's he trying to say about Tyre in 70 years?
It's going to be playing the role of the harlot.
It's gonna be like reduced to nothing, and that's gonna be like trying to get people to notice it again, but they're not.
Yeah, so for 70 years, Tyre is going to be like subdued, not destroyed, but subdued by Assyria, which is what happened. And after that time, she's going to try and make a comeback. And so now we have verse 17. At the end of 70 years, the Lord will deal with Tyre. I'll just read it and then I'll make some comments. She'll return to her lucrative prostitution, will ply her trade with all the kingdoms on the face of the earth. Yet her profit and her earnings will be set apart for the Lord. They will not be stored up or hoarded. Her profits will go to those who live before the Lord for abundant food and fine clothes. What on earth does this even mean? What's he talking about? Did Isaiah need like an editor to help him flesh this out? I mean, what's he saying? This is why interpreting prophecy is hard. Okay, so forget about, so what in the end, so verse 18, what's verse 18 seem to say? Forget about verse 17. What's verse 18 seem to say?
That the money that they make in Tyre will be given or taken to do the Lord's work.
Okay. Her profits will go to those, her profit and her earnings will be set apart for the Lord. Not some of them, but like everything, right? Everything she makes will be set apart for the Lord. They're not going to be hoarded, not going to be thrown in the bank, not going to be stuffed under a mattress. It's all for God. Her profits will go to those who live before the Lord for abundant food and fine clothes. So it's like Tyre will be this economic powerhouse again, but all the money she makes is just given to God's people. So it's like Tyre is part of this. Tyre is like become part of God's family as an economic engine to make the world, to make God's people a prosperous people, which is strange. So, but verse 17 says at the end, to go backward, at the end of the 70 years, the Lord will deal with Tyre and she's going to be rejuvenated and things will be better, which happened after the Assyrians left until the Babylonians came. So she sort of rose up from the ashes and was again triumphant. The Babylonians besieged her for 16 years and still couldn't take her. So how does verse 17, which is a long time ago, how does that flow into verse 18, which seems to be talking about the kingdom in the future? How does that work? This is why prophecy is hard.
Because it can mean so many different things.
It's because it's not told in a straightforward way. This happened and then this happened. This means this. It's not like that. So what I think the best way to see what's happening here is this: God says that Tyre is going to be rejuvenated from the ashes, and then that imagery sort of just melts into a rejuvenation in eternity as well. But in eternity, in verse 18, when all of its profits are given to God, like seemingly voluntarily. There's this image of God ruling over the world and Tyre as a willing participant in God's family, trading with the nations, making profit, and then taking it all and giving it to God for God's people. What does Tyre seem to be a part of God's family or not? Why not?
They are living in revelry.
Not at the end.
Well, no. In the beginning they were.
Yeah, in the beginning they were. This chapter seems to have undone everyone.
I'm trying to stay awake.
I'm even reading it and I can't understand it.
It's not you, Pastor. Everybody is.
That's okay. I forgive you. This is a hard chapter.
I'm trying to be more.
That's okay. What I'll say is this is all through this section, this is from Isaiah 14 onward, things have been kind of hard. I'm surprised people still come to Sunday school. But it's been really hard because there's really deep, way in the future things and lots of judgment. But in almost all these chapters, we see judgment and then a promise that the people he's going to judge, they're going to be part of his community in eternity. Moab, Egypt, Assyria will be part of his community. And now it doesn't say explicitly, but it seems like even the greediest people on the face of the earth, the nation of Tyre, one day, way far away, still even far away from now, will be part of his family too. They're going to be working for him, not as slaves, but as willing people. They're not hiding money away. They're making money, trading, but all the money, they take it all and they go to God. They set them apart for the Lord. And it's all given to God.
So is the people of Tyre, are they Jewish?
No.
No, they're Tyrian.
Yeah. They're not Jewish people.
And God wants to make them part of his.
That's what it seems like to me. That's what verse 18 seems to see. It sort of melts from a rejuvenation back to their old ways to a future where they're still trading, but this time there's no wickedness, and all of their profits they take and they just give to the Lord for the Lord's people. So it seems to picture a future with the Moabites, with the Egyptians, with the Assyrians, and with the people from Tyre, who've been presumably in their hearts have been fixed, and they've been made part of God's family. Jewish people as the engine to bring the gospel to the world so other people can join the family. And that's Isaiah 23. Clear as mud, right? Clear as the Puyallup River.
Well, Pastor, but you have to remember in prophecies too, like a number of people set down what was going to happen in the end times. And as time's gone by, what they've said isn't what's going to happen. So we can interpret this and try to interpret this. There may be still things in that haven't happened or directed it yet. We do know that a number of these things happened to Tyre. We do know her bay was filled up with stones so she could be attacked. So some of those prophecies have come through, but we can say this is what we think it is, but you don't absolutely know, because as time goes on, other things happen that can still be part of the fulfillment of that.
It is, sometimes you have to make educated guesses, and the problem is if you guess too much. I mean, it's other passages that we read before, it says that people from Egypt, people from Assyria will be part of his family. It's not just Jewish people. So based on that, you can guess that at the end of Isaiah 23, it seems like Tyre is going to be part of that. It doesn't say that, but because they're giving all their profits to God for his people, it seems like it. I don't know, but that'd be my best guess. And like Tim said, maybe it will happen, maybe it won't. I want you to leave here today not thinking, well, I'm glad we talked about Tyre today. The takeaway for today is this, is the greed, the materialism thing, the thing Jesus spoke about from Luke 12. If you trust in anything other than the Lord, it's going to be wiped out one day. And these people from Tyre epitomized that error, and they were wiped out one day. But even these people, so two things. One, don't trust. Your life doesn't consist in all the sum of all the things you own and all the trinkets and the money you have. That's number one. Number two, which is more tentative, which Tim was right to point out, I think the best explanation for what happens to Tyre is that even the greediest, most materialistic people in the ancient world, even some of them are going to be part of God's family in the end, with people from Egypt, with people from Assyria. And if God can rescue even people like this, then he can rescue anybody.